Noise reduction can completely change your shots and make them cinematic, but the problem is that it can also destroy your image and make it look blurry or artificial. In this video, I'll show you my real workflow that I use all the time with my Blackmagic camera. I will explain what the key settings actually do, how to set it right, and at the end I will show you an additional trick that can make your footage even better. The first important thing is that the noise reduction node should be at the beginning of your node tree, so before all the grading. That's because we want to remove this noise at the start. If we don't do this first, we will leave the noise through contrast, color, or the worst of it, sharpening, and it will only emphasize the noise in our image. The noise reduction has two parts. First is temporal and second spatial. The temporal noise reduction looks across frames in time and reduces noise by comparing motion and texture from frame to frame. It's the main tool that I use. Spatial noise reduction works inside a single frame. It's more like smoothing the image, which can help, but it's also fastest way to kill texture and make things look like plastic. So how to set this noise reduction to work well? Let's start with the first setting, that is frames either side. And here you basically tell Resolve how much frames should it use for reference. I usually start with 2 or 3 frames and adjust it if needed. But basically the more frames you choose, the better the reduction is, but also the more artifacts appear. Next is motion estimation type, and I think that you should always choose better here if you want the best results. You can also go with faster, for example for a preview or to help your computer process the image, but for the final rendering, choose better here, it always works the best. And the last setting here is motion range, and here you can help DaVinci a bit by telling it how much motion should it expect in your video. You should choose small if the shot is mostly stable, with small movements only. I would choose medium for walking shots and large for maybe fast motion, big handheld shakes and running. And now we are going to temporal threshold, and that's here where all the magic happens. The easiest way would be just to take the threshold slider and move it to the right. By increasing the threshold, you remove the noise. And here you should notice that you don't need a lot of threshold for the noise reduction to work. And that's the whole key. You should try to find a spot where the noise is gone, but also the threshold is as low as it can be, because the higher the threshold is, the less details are in your shots. For example, if I set the threshold to 100, yeah, the noise is gone, but so are the details. Try to find the sweet spot and don't overdo it. In most cases, you won't need anything higher than 20, maybe 25. And sometimes even setting it at 10 or 15 is enough. You can also use scopes to help you with dialing the perfect setting. I like to use Parade and I move the threshold, checking the scopes. By moving the threshold, you can see that on the scopes the noise is reduced as well. And you will probably find a moment where moving the threshold up doesn't change the scopes that much. And this might be a good indicator to not go any higher on your threshold. Pairing the information from your scopes with the preview that you see will give you the best results. You can also go further and split Luma and Chroma. And this is a big difference. Splitting those apart lets you dial in your noise reduction even better. I usually start with Chroma first, because I can remove those colorful dots and not mess the details, and then touch the Luma just a bit so that I can remove the grainy texture. And then we have motion, and I have to say that I don't really use it that much, and it lets you choose how much smeared your motion in the image is. Blend simply controls how much of the cleaned result replaces the original. So this is the temporal noise reduction, and we will go through a few examples in a moment, but now let's talk about the second method, the spatial noise reduction. I use it very rarely, but the whole point is that spatial noise reduction works at the particular frame without analyzing the rest. It can be helpful when there is a lot of motion in your shots, and the temporal noise reduction gives you very bad results. The first thing is the mode, and I think that you should always use at least better, but the best would be enhanced. There is also an AI Ultra method, but it doesn't work well for me, so I would stick with better or enhanced. Then we have the radius, and it's basically the size of the smoothing area. I would stick to small radius as often as possible. And then we have the spatial threshold, and it's the same idea as before. You can change the threshold connected, or to be more precise, you can split the Luma and Chroma, and I would really watch out for Luma here, because you can completely destroy any details with it. If anything looks a bit artificial, it's much better to move the threshold a bit, because remember, it's always better to leave a bit of noise than to make your footage look fake. Okay, and now let's go quickly through some of my scenes to show you how it works in practice. First, an easy one. So a static image with a bit of noise in the shadows. Here I will choose 3 frames either side because there is not a lot of movement, so I can afford it. And I will play with Chroma a bit, till I don't notice the colorful dots. Then when it's ready, I go to Luma and remove the noise. And that's it, the scene is ready. Let's go to the next one. Here we have a very difficult example, because we have a very detailed water from the waterfall, and on the left we have a very shadowy area with a lot of noise. And now let's start with the threshold. As you can see in this scene, if I overdo the threshold, I'm losing all the details in this water. And of course here the water is the most important thing, it's the subject of this scene, so I can't afford it. So now I will split the Luma and Chroma again, and I will bump up the Chroma just a bit till I don't notice the colorful dots. Then I will try to remove the grain, but here I will probably leave a bit of it so that the water still stays sharp. And now I would like to warn you, because there is something that can go unnoticed and it can really destroy your shots. The background can be warped when the object moves. And it's really easy to get rid of it, just lower your frames either side and lower the threshold a bit. But the biggest problem is that you can miss it very easily, and you can notice it, for example, a week or 2 after rendering your footage, and then you will be sad that your footage looks artificial. So after applying noise reduction, always play for your footage and check if there are no glitches. And now let's go to the part that I announced in the beginning of this video. And it's a hack that makes your footage look realistic after noise reduction. Because sometimes the noise reduction can make your footage look a bit too clean, a bit too smooth. And that's why at the end of my node tree, after color space transform, I add a tiny bit of film grain. If you want to add it, you can use DaVinci film grain, but when I want a more film-like texture and nicer grain response, I use Dehancer, because it works really well on my travel footage. It's not required, but it can look really good. If you want to know more, check out this video next, and if it helped you, leave a like and subscribe, it really helps. Thanks for watching, and remember, let your films be shot by reality.